Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jeremiah. Um, Это Dlaya Ukraine Irasi. And clearly my Russian's not good enough to do this whole thing like that. So, if there's anyone that's, fluent in Russian or Ukrainian, that they could translate it for those guys, that'd be rad. Because this message is for them, and it's really for the whole world. Um, Sounds kind of weird because I'm not really like an established YouTuber or anything, but that's uh, why I need everybody's help to get this out there. I recently discovered, well, quite a few things, so there's going to be several videos. But this one here is a religion video, which may turn some people off. But I grew up with those stories as a kid, and henceforth, that's what I wondered about um, when I'd face this problem in my life. Uh, so I guess to start, I was having a really bad time with stuff, man. I had a bunch of bad stuff happen. I lost my car. I lost my good job as an animator, my career. I almost died in the hospital. I had like emergency surgery, and I had a falling out with my father. I was getting a divorce from my wife, and when I didn't think it could get any worse, when I was in for that surgery, they found I had cancer. Now I know I said I wouldn't mention that on my Facebook, and I'm only doing it now because it holds so much relevance to the story. Because they found thyroid cancer, and if you Google that or look it up, you'll probably think to yourself, it's not so bad, right? It's one of those ones that you just take it out and you're good, right? Well, I found out that it was a different kind of thyroid cancer. It's called medullary carcinoma, which is a lot rarer. It's a genetic thing. And I didn't find that out till later. I got like a clear bill of health, told all my friends everything was cool, and then they dropped that on me, and I just disappeared. And I couldn't handle it, and it got me thinking about my youth pastor from when I was a kid. I had heard last that he moved someplace else in the United States, and some bad stuff had befallen him himself, where I guess he had a tumor in his head, and that ended up causing him to have a stroke. And after he stroked out, he wasn't the same. He's walking around with a cane, all messed up and stuff. And eventually, it, slowly killed him. And man, oh, it just bothered me. And it bothered me because it just seemed like there was no, you know, like the nice guys finish last thing. There's just nobody gets anything they deserve. It just didn't seem right, you know. I'm a nice guy. He was the best guy. So why is that crap gotta happen, man? And then I read the book of Job again after I was a kid, and they always say the same thing about that book every single time. Like you look it up on the internet. I'm gonna actually link a video that these guys do about this. Now, I haven't gone to church in forever, but right now I am about to preach the pants off of freaking douchebags like what's his name there, Kenneth Copeland. And I'm not even gonna freaking make you guys buy me a jumbo jet so I don't gotta fly up in the tin can with the heathens. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give you guys this one for free. Because I said I would. And this actually comes from Pastor James. This is dedicated to him. I'd like to dedicate it to him, and I'd like to dedicate it to Isaac Canada. Because I heard you became a pastor. And as a pastor, you need to know what your role is. It's so important. It takes so much more than just going to some seminary school or some crap like that. It takes talking with God, and it takes being a insightful person and a good storyteller. Because back in the day when stories were told, they were told by a storyteller, by a preacher, a real person that was there to inform you on what the words meant so that you would understand it, so the meaning wouldn't get lost. And all of these years, the meaning has gotten lost. And these are the 3 books of wisdom. They're called the wisdom literature. The Job is the 3rd book, but there's 2 other books before it. I believe it's Proverbs and Ecclesiastes or something like that. I'm 100% going to go over those at some other point, but I'm going to hit you guys with the punchline because really the first 2 books are only meant to reinforce the 3rd book. So if you haven't gathered what the meaning is of the first 2, you're probably not going to get what the 3rd one was about. And I got what the 3rd one was about before I read the other 2. Furthermore, when it comes to being a pastor or anybody that people come to you for advice, you had better know what you're talking about. And if you don't know what you're talking about, then you need to find the answer. Back in the day, if people didn't know, like the answer to something, like this Bible verse here, then they would seek it. They would go stay out in the woods and meditate on that crap for like days, weeks, months, so they could figure it out, so they could tell the people what God told him to tell them. I don't think people do that. Instead, they just add these anecdotal little stories that help the people relate those stories to them. And then they give them the oh so famous quote, God works in mysterious ways. Let me tell you what, there is a famous quote from the book of Job, and that famous quote, I'm sorry to say, is not God works in mysterious ways. No. No, we'll get to the part of the famous quote, but for now, let's go over the story. For those of you that don't know about the book of Job, it's that weird story in the Bible where the dude just undergoes a crap ton of hardship. Like, he gets his butt kicked, dude, and it's terrible. But let's start off at the beginning. If you want to know a little bit about the history of it, real quick, like, the book, it's different than all the rest of the books in the Bible. It's like, it's a poem or something like that. So it's written in a sense where it's like the Little Shop of Horrors of the, of the Mediterranean back in that day or whatever. It was like, well, or of the Arab countries, or of um, it was pretty much, it was like a musical. You know what I mean? And it was meant to be performed like an epic or a drama almost. And one of my favorite things about this book is the beginning of the book. And I mean the true beginning. As we all know, things have been altered, and I can almost guarantee that this book specifically has been altered because so many people, I'll bet you anything, read this book and went, I don't know what it means. Well, it is kind of a bummer, so maybe we should just, add a happy ending or something. That sounds cool. It totally defeats the purpose of the story. All right. So the real beginning of the book starts off with like a commentary by Job. The reason I think this is wrong is because it shifts perspective, and I'll explain why. But let's keep going. After that, it jumps up to heaven, and it starts talking about God, and God's like kicking it up there, looking down at his boy Job, going, "Yeah, Job's getting it. Look at him, man. He's really, really living my words. He's doing right by me, and I love that." And then all of a sudden, this dude rolls up behind him named Hasatan. Now, that's a Hebrew word, and that actually means something different. People, they translate it, and in the English version of the Bible, it says something like that it's actually Satan. But this is not necessarily meant to portray him because it means he's the accuser or the one opposed. And they make it appear as though this whole conversation and all this stuff is happening in some sort of command center. You'll see that. I like the way it's portrayed in the video that I linked below. But again, they got the story all wrong. So I got to set it straight. But after this dude comes in and says all that stuff to him, he's like, yo, you know what? I'll bet you anything if you took away all the reward that guy got from freaking doing good by you, that he wouldn't be so keen on that, man. He'd probably be pissed at you and he wouldn't want to freaking have nothing to do with you no more, God. How about that? And God's like, no way, man. That's not, no way. That would never happen, dude. He's like, you want to bet? He's like, give it your best shot. And so Hasatan, he rolls on down there and he starts a little bit of mischief, man. He's got Job. He's got these three friends. We'll call them Faz, Tim, and Bill. All right. So Faz, Tim, and Bill, they're freaking, at the beginning of this thing, like praising all his stuff. He's got all these freaking daughters and sons and all this real estate and tons of livestock and just living the life. He's got a wife, an awesome house, man. Just like so much stuff. And little by little, all that stuff starts getting whittled away, man. He starts losing all his livestock, his land, his children. His wife leaves him. And then his friends, they roll up on him and they're like, yo, man, that ain't good, dude. You've done something wrong. You know how that is. God punishes those that are evil, man, and you definitely had to have done something, because I'll tell you what, you are having a bad run of it, buddy. Real good friends, right? Yeah. So, after all of that goes down there, he is just like stricken, man. He's like, dude, this sucks. And he screams out that famous quote I was talking about: the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. That's the famous quote that's from this. Now, that famous quote is meant to really encompass the whole pacifism, uh, but we'll get to that. Anyways, after he gets completely, like, just dominated and he's penniless, he he ends up being afflicted with boils, and he's like at the end of his rope, and he's like, yo, just kill me already. I got nothing left to live for, man. What the heck? I've had everything taken from me. I'm sick. I'm dying here. Just take me, God. And that right there is when God shows up as a rain cloud, and the whole thing goes down where he lifts Job up and shows him some things. Shows him, and this is the way they portray it. I'm going to drop it like this so that we can see where that misunderstanding is at. He pulls him up in the air, flies him over all of creation, and he's like, yo, I made all this. You can't even begin to understand the depth of this, man. I made this, and you're just a dumb human, man. So how could you expect to understand that? You can't. So don't even try. Now cower before me and be humbled by my magnificence. And he does. He drops to his knees and starts crying at how magnificent and awesome God was, and how stupid he is, and how he never should have defied him and never should have questioned his authority and stuff like that. And the way that it's taught to everybody is the moral to that story is just like they said in the link I'm going to provide, that God works in mysterious ways. I don't know what to say. We can't begin to understand his plan, so don't even try. Just have faith and he will provide. That's trash. That's absolute trash. When I watched the video with my mom, and I love my mother so dearly, she inspires me and she's such a sweet woman, which is why she gets sucked into that stuff. She's so intelligent. She's such a very intelligent woman, and that's why it saddens me to see her sit there and shake her head to these videos going, yes, yes, God, I am humbled before you because I just don't know. I don't know the meaning behind what it is you want, and I give it all to you, God. Now, again, that's not me mocking my mother. Such a wonderful and smart woman. But people get caught up in the emotion of that. They get caught up in the emotion of church and in the emotion of stuff. And when they're confused about something that happens in the Bible, and they go to a preacher to find out what the true answer is to that, and they get, I don't know, God works in mysterious ways, go home and pray about it. I mean, your job is to interpret that stuff. Like I said before, if you don't know the answer, then don't even talk about it. Don't sit there and preach this sermon at church, and don't tell all these people this crap that is wrong. I have finally understood why it is that all of the prophets and the people in the Bible get so PO'd when people do crap like this. Because it's heresy, man. And I hate to talk crap. I'm sure we have, this is a book from the Old Testament, so I'm sure we have Jewish people that are probably going to be offended by the fact that I'm saying that they're preaching it wrong. I hopefully they preach it more like I'm preaching it now, but I can tell you what, I went to church forever, and every video I've ever looked up on this thing and any of the other videos that posit the same question, which is the question of theodicy or theodicy, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, which is the meaning of why God permits evil in the world. They all say the same exact thing, and it's so dumb. They just act like forget about it. We're never going to know. It even says in that book, the answer has been hidden by God from man. The answer to all of the stuff has been hidden from man. And you have to actually interpret it in the right way. Because it's like it's coded. All this stuff has been coded in a way that only the people that seek the truth find the answer. It is through that and only that you gain the wisdom that you need. So now allow me to tell you the real way that story went down. First of all, I said earlier on that perspective gets shifted, right? Well, even when you Wikipedia this stuff, it says that the protagonist in this story is Job, because it's called the Book of Job, right? Let's switch our perspective for a second, and let's switch our perspective over to God. Okay? Now, God has his son, and his son, Job, his child, this creation of his, is suffering, badly suffering, at the hands of this madman. Now, some of you out there are parents. Those of you that aren't parents, like, I'm sure you can imagine this, but imagine for one moment that your child has a family, has a wife, kids, son, everything he's got for him, and he's got it all going for him, and you are so proud of that person. And then you have to sit there and watch this person that you love so dearly suffer so badly, lose everything that they have, lose their wife, all their children, everything they love and everything they possess. Imagine how betrayed your child would feel. Especially if you had to go to your kid and tell your kid that you knew that was going to happen to him, and that you could have stopped that, but that you didn't. It's heartbreaking, man. It says elsewhere in the Bible that God created us in his image, and that's what that means there. God would never hurt anybody. So he expects Job to never wish harm upon anyone, especially God, his creator. So when we think about this story, it's a story about accountability for one's actions. Job was an evolved human being that knew that it was better to not kill and better to not harm or wish harm upon others, to not visit the suffering upon others, and to teach his children to visit that suffering upon others, because he knew that the cycle stopped with him. And that's why God was so proud of him. He then does that thing where he flies him over, and shows him everything that he made. What's that mean? He's showing him all of that stuff because he's showing him, you think you lost everything? I gave you all this. All of this is for you, Job, to enjoy and to live and to have a life. And I want you to go live that life and have more kids and do more things. Because that's what life is for, man. Job becomes humbled because he sees the situation from God's perspective. He sees that God is sad at the way that we treat each other. One of my favorite quotes is from the Watchmen comic, and Rorschach says it. And Rorschach says, God doesn't make the world this way. We do. That's profound, man. In the book of Jeremiah, the book that I'm named after, there's a war going on in that book. And this one place gets invaded by Babylon. I believe it's Jerusalem. And they run him out of town. And Jeremiah, he warns the king ahead of time, and he tells him to give up, to not fight, because that's what God wants. And if I have anything to say to President Zelensky from Ukraine, it's that's what God would want. Is he would want you to not fight. I know that would be hard, to leave all of your homes behind. I would hate to have to do that. But none of us want violence. The only reason it's being done is because people need a paycheck. They're doing that crap because some guy who has more money than they do is paying them to do that. Nobody thinks that any of that stuff is warranted. Nowadays, nobody thinks that stuff is good. If you sat and you did nothing and they killed and murdered all of you guys and you never fought back once, that makes them a bully. And do you know how the world feels about bullies nowadays? They frown upon them. Bullies are not looked upon well. I'd take some of you up in my house if I could. Come knock on my door. But the point is that that's what that story is truly about. It's about defeating our demons and truly learning genuine empathy for one another so that we don't visit the suffering that has been visited upon us, upon the next generation, and teaching them peace and love and generosity. And there is not enough of that in the world anymore. Man, I see Zelensky on there, and he looks like such a sweet guy, man. I would not wish that upon anybody in the world. He's got everything on his shoulders. So many people depend on that guy right now. I don't blame him for making any decision he makes. But if he makes the decision for peace, then I and the rest of the world will herald him as a hero, as the first leader to choose peace over pain and suffering. And to start a new way for all of us to exist with each other peacefully. And to get rid of all of the stuff we've all had to deal with and live with recently. All of you need to just realize this story and realize how wrongly it's been told all these years. And please share this video with others so that they can learn as well. Thank you so much, and God bless.